Onto this story now. President Cyril Ramaphosa's job as president has long been reported to be under threat. Now, numerous media reports emerged about the ANC's alleged plot to oust Ramaphosa now claims the party has denied. Well, one political analyst says even if the allegations are true, the alleged plan is unlikely to succeed. Professor Mcebisi Ndletyana argues that Ramaphosa needs to work on pleasing the public. Well, he joins me in studio now. Prof, good morning to you. Is the president doing a good job of pleasing the public if that public is to keep him in his job?
Not entirely. I think he's been concerned about ANC business, ANC stuff, reassuring the ANC that he won't veer off ANC resolutions. He hasn't been tough enough, for instance, on issues of corruption. We don't see him pushing enough for those who are implicated or rather alleged to be corrupt for them to be prosecuted.
We have a jobs bloodbath.
We do have a jobs bloodbath. He's been mobilizing a lot of funds from private investors. There's a lot of activity on that front, and I don't think our job situation will turn suddenly. There are certain things that will take a while to turn around, but there are things that you can do in the immediate. And one of those really is corruption, is instituting lifestyle audits. We've been hearing reports of employees, for instance, at Eskom, about 2,000 employees who do business with Eskom, meaning which they influence processes for procurement to favor themselves. Patricia DeLille reported the same thing in her own public works department, which is notorious for corruption. And these are things that Cyril Ramaphosa has been talking about. These are things that the ANC has resolved to do, but they haven't done them. So you do need to push on that front, but the reluctance, I think, has to do with the fact that it implicates quite a number of ANC people, because officials oftentimes do these things with politicians as beneficiaries. They don't do them alone.
Prof, you point to the upcoming NGC that takes place in June this year as a possible key indicator of the alleged plot to oust Cyril Ramaphosa. We all know that that platform is to review the work of government, how far it's gone in implementing ANC resolutions.
Yes.
How is it going to be a key indicator of just how secure or insecure our president is?
Well, the main issue really would be, as you say, that he hasn't implemented some ANC resolutions. But that point will not fly because, for instance, if you look on land expropriation without compensation, Parliament is moving ahead on that. And if they force that point forcefully, they are also implicating themselves in that, because his detractors have also not implemented some of the resolutions that have to do with reforming the ANC. Such as, for instance, making the findings of the Integrity Commission binding on the ANC instead of sending them to the NEC for approval, right? You also need to modernize ANC's membership system. You have to put it online instead of people signing forms that are rigged, right? So the accusations that are leveled at Cyril Ramaphosa, and one of them is that he hasn't pushed on nationalizing the Reserve Bank. He has agreed on that. He says, yes, we will do that only if we find money. So for whoever insists on that point, then they must make an argument why money should be spent, which is required elsewhere on pressing matters, should be spent on buying the bank, when in fact, even if you bought the bank, you would not be able to influence it anyway, because the bank remains independent even under state ownership.
Prof, very quickly. I want to ask of you, how are we able to tell whether civil society is energized and effective enough to defend the president, should it come to that? Are we seeing any signs of an active civil society right now that would actually push back against the ANC?
What we know is that the ANC got Cyril Ramaphosa elected as president because they knew that they needed someone who would win them elections. And the polls were showing that Cyril is a lot more popular than the ANC. That was ahead of the 2019 elections because Cyril did not have a constituency, really. They just brought him, they elected him deputy president of the ANC in 2012, for instance, to bring back respectability in the office of the president because the ANC was highly discredited. They lost, they dropped support in 2009, they dropped in 2011, so they needed someone to bring back that support. And that's how Cyril came in, and he validated that decision in 2014 to some degree, even though the ANC dropped. But certainly in 2019, the ANC was able to maintain its electoral support. Even though it dropped down, it remained around 54, 55, mainly because of Cyril Ramaphosa, right? So that fact has been established. So going forward, of course, public sentiment now is a little bit depressed because they feel that certain things are not being done. State capture, there are cases that are coming out, they are not being prosecuted. So one might say, arguably, that public support might be a little bit depressed. But he knows that to rev up this support back again, he needs to press on the state capture issue. And of course, how do we find out? We find out from polls. Right? You guys will have discussions here, polls will be done, and they will indicate quite strongly that the ANC as an institution remains discredited. It is tainted, especially because, you know, you have people who represent the face of the party and they are discredited individuals. So the only person with credibility with society remains Cyril Ramaphosa. So if they remove him, then they'll have to come up with a credible face that will win the elections, certainly in 2021 and again in the next national elections. And they can't, I don't think they can find a credible replacement.
And that's a key question. Who might that person be? Lots of arguments you're making in this article, Prof, but time is against us. We'll talk some other time. Ace Magashule, you speak of him as being much stronger right now as a key opponent of the president. Professor Mcebisi Ndletyana, he is the political analyst who wrote that opinion piece.